Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. This is the KZX HBB DQ6s. And these are my Honest Audiophile impressions. I want to thank KZ for providing the KZX HBB DQ6s for review. Do greatly appreciate it. KZ, you rock. Alright, so the DQ6s. This is a collaboration between Bad Guy Good Audio Reviews, or Bagger, or HBB Hawaiian Bad Boy. Link down below for his channel. And this is a interesting little IEM. And I say that because it has 3 drivers. And you're like, 3 drivers, that's pretty typical. Not when they're all dynamics. So this has a 10mm dual magnet dynamic driver for the bass, and then a 6mm single magnetic driver for the mids, and another 6mm dynamic driver for the treble. I'll spit it out. Alright, so triple dynamic drivers. Very interesting design. You don't see that too often. It has 25 ohms of impedance, 116 decibels of sensitivity, and pretty much a standard KZ unboxing. Inside you're going to get the cable and 3 tips, small, medium, and large. And they're all silicone. The DQ6 looks like this. So you can get the cable in either a mic'd or non-mic'd version. I was sent the mic'd version. It does have a single press cable, or remote, excuse me, and typical KZ cable. If you're familiar with them, they're basic. And they're functional and it works. Has very aggressive ear hooks. Extremely aggressive ear hooks, and it's not a bad looking IEM. It's got a nice little faceplate on it, very subtle black, a little bit on the chunky side, have a fairly aggressive wing. Take the tip off here, you can see how big that is, and I find that comfort-wise is okay. I can manage these for about 30 to 45 minutes before my ear starts to get a little sore and starts begging for a rest. They go in my ears, and isolation of outside noises is pretty good. I would say probably about 70% of outside noises is blocked, and they do a good job of sealing. And as I said, comfort is okay. That wingtip is a little bit aggressive. And also I have a problem with the stock cable. It's just hitting in the wrong spot right here on the front of my ear. And those ear hooks are a little aggressive, so it kind of pulls and it forces that wingtip kind of to really hit my ear in the wrong spot. So they've just become uncomfortable. So I started searching around for another cable. And first thing I tried was a KZ non-mic'd cable. And I did notice that clarity was slightly better with the non-mic'd version, which is pretty common with a inline microphone versus a non-mic'd cable. But then I still noticed that I still had the issue with it just kind of hurting right in this area. And so I started looking for other cables. And I came across my drop 2-pin cable. Now I really like this cable. It's super, super thin and very lightweight. And it has very easy ear hooks. And also you'll notice they're very thin. Also they're not the, whatever they call that, where it's like sheathed or covered over, I call it sheath 2-pin. And on the one for the DQ6s, you can see that it's got that little covering and it's just thicker. And so let me make sure that I put the cables on right here. When I put the cables on, you'll notice that it does protrude up a little bit, but look how much thinner that is compared to that. Also, look at how much aggression is on the stock one versus this. All right, let's change the cables here. And I want to show you how it works on my ear so much better. So when I put it in my ear, all of a sudden, because I have that little extra space there, it's not pulling on the wing. and it's not pushing in on that section on my ear as much. And I find actually that they isolate even better, because now it's actually going flush in and actually fitting my ear correctly. So I'm actually getting even better isolation. But the comfort of the tips still wasn't very good. The KZ tips are okay, and everything sounded all right. The DQ6s sounded great with the stock cable and with the stock tips. They just weren't comfortable. And so I started searching for some tips, and I found that the final Type E tip actually was the most comfortable without changing the sonics. And so when I put them in, all of a sudden the comfort inside the ear is better, and the IEM's just fitting in my ear even better. It's just a very comfortable fit, and I went from 30 to 45 minutes worth of listening time to hours on end. I could listen to these for hours. I actually listened to them for 8 hours straight at one point, and they were just extremely comfortable. I have no complaints now. And as I said, I didn't notice a difference in sonics. So just making those simple adjustments added to the extension, the extended listenability without changing sonics. And that is a big plus when it comes to an IEM. Speaking of sonics, how do they sound? The DQ6s is an IEM that is not going to be used on stage. It's not a reference IEM. This is not something that is going to be used to mix and master or edit or anything like that. This is an IEM for pure fun. In fact, this is a bass head IEM on the budget. If you are looking for a very good bass head IEM in the $30 price point, here you go. The DQ6s has big bass. It is authoritative, it is powerful, and it is controlled. And on top of that, it has amazingly good tonality and very good timbre, really good details and retrieval. For the price point, this thing is exceptional in the bass. I really, really do enjoy the DQ6s's bass. This thing is fun. And I am just amazed at how well it is controlled and how detailed it is with the correct amount of tonality. This thing has a natural sounding bass, and I really, really do enjoy that. It is a little bit warm going into the lower mids. It does bleed just a little bit, but it adds some body in that area. And it is, even though it is a V-shaped sound, the mids have a fullness to them, and they have a little bit of warmth to them. And it's a little natural sounding warmth. And I really do enjoy the mids. Even though they are being outshined by the bass, they're not being dominated by the bass. They still have a presence to them, and they still have a quality about them that allows you to be immersed in the sound of instruments and vocalists. And I really do enjoy the mids. They have very good tonality, just like the bass does. Good details and retrieval, and excellent amount of timbre. They are a very natural sounding mid. They have very good presence about them. And then the treble has a little bit of elevation in the lower treble regions, and then it kind of tails off and rolls. And I find that it has a decent amount of extension. I do wish I had just a little bit more, and I wish I had just a little bit more top end, just a tad, a little bit more energy and sparkle. But for the most part, these are a very laid back and an enjoyable treble that is controlled, and it's not going to fatigue you and rub you the wrong way and really annoy you and fatigue your ears. I find that bass, mids, and treble, these things are very pleasing. They just have a funness about them without being aggressive and without being fatiguing. Soundstage wise, it's not the widest, but it is able to at least give you an idea of whether or not something is big or small. And it's not one that is trying to be super impressive by always being wide. It does do a decent job of saying, okay, this is a smaller, intimate type of setting, or this is a little bit larger of a setting, but it doesn't get into grand size. Depth is average. It's not super great at being deep, and it's not the most layered, but it does enough to not sound compressed or stuffy in any way. Imaging is okay. Things travel across and you can follow them, and they're fairly precise in their placements. You can pretty much say it's right in that neighborhood. It's not exactly pinpoint, but it is pretty close to it. They do a decent job with gaming, but if you're looking for true accuracy, I would look elsewhere. Overall, I really like the DQ6s. I think it's a very well done IEM, especially for the price tag of $30. This thing is exceptional good, and in fact, I think it's actually the best sounding KZ I've heard. It's just the most fun, most pleasing. It has the best tone and timbre that I've heard from a KZ, and overall, it's just a very pleasing, engaging sound. Now, sure, it's not a reference sound, and it's not neutral, but it is fun, and I really do enjoy this. I used it on all my gear. I used it from anything from desktop, which is a Mytek Liberty, going into a head amp GSX Mini, and also into a THX 1 linear, the Mytek Liberty itself, Aueze Deckard, and a Tor Audio Roger. It sounded great on all of those. Didn't have any problems powering it. I also used it with the different DAPs that I have, which was a Heidi's AP80 Pro and a Sony A105 and WM1A. Sounded fantastic off all of those. And I used it with various dongles, and I really enjoyed it with everything. I didn't really have any complaints. And my favorite pairing was actually straight out of my phone using the Periodic Audio Rhodium. Sounds fantastic, and this thing is a great dongle. If you haven't picked one up, you should, and it's well worth the money, and it pairs extremely well with the DQ6s. Very clean and extremely detailed. Very good tonality from the Periodic Audio Rhodium, and it sounds fantastic with the DQ6s. The DQ6s is a very unique design, being triple driver dynamics. I don't have anything else like a triple driver dynamic in-house to compare it to. So I was like, why don't we compare it to the other KZ collaboration and compare it to the ZEX Pro, which is a collaboration between KZ and Cranicle. And I find that the DQ6s is very much more enjoyable than the ZEX Pro. I found that the ZEX Pro has a very thin sound to it. It also is very aggressive, especially in the upper mids and lower treble region. It's too elevated. It has a very wide sound stage that is unnatural and not accurate in size. And it has a false sense of detail retrieval and resolution. It's very aggressive in it. It has a lot of harshness, and it's very hot in the treble. And I find that the ZEX Pro is just not very pleasing for me to listen to. And I find that the DQ6s is the more pleasing one of the two collaborations, and I highly recommend it, the DQ6s, just because it's fun sounding and very enjoyable and just very pleasing. And the ZEX Pro, I can't really recommend it. It's just, for me, it's just not very pleasing sounding. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of next video, somewhere on the screen, subscription links, notification bells. If you haven't already, please check those off. And then don't forget to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the video. And check out the links down below for all kinds of information regarding how you can follow the channel, support the channel, contact the channel. All kinds of good things are down below, like music lists and gear recommendations, all kinds of other things. So check out those links. And then don't forget to enjoy the music, and remember that honesty is the best policy.